the world, from whichever time zone you're catching me from. My name is MD90 and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell notification to all so that you do not miss any upload as it comes up. And if you're new to the channel or you've been here for a while, the easiest way for you to move around or to navigate the channel is to head to the playlist. You'll find videos curated for you based on your interest in that. And if you're already subscribed to the channel, make sure you consider becoming a member of the channel. So on the subscribe button, you see a join button there. Make sure you become a member so that you support the team on the production. And we'll catch you around. So this past Sunday, Dr. Nevas Mumba was in Ghana. He was at Dr. Mesa Otabio's church. So they shared how their friendship has grown over the years. So part of the sermon that Dr. Nevas Mumba was sharing was encouraging believers to step out of their comfort zone and always not rely on within their church circles for support and stuff like that. He shared his own experience, how should have been in 2001 or 2000, those elections between President Mwanawasa and Anderson Mazoka. He shared an experience to say Anderson Mazoka had approached him. If you don't know who Anderson Mazoka is the founding president of the UPND. So when he contested those elections, Dr. Mumba shared during that sermon to say he had approached him for them to go into some sort of alliance so that they can form government and then have an agreement to say Anderson rules for 5 years and then Nevas Mumba picks it up after 5 years of some sort. And then during the sermon, Dr. Nevas Mumba shares to say, this is the sermon that he had shared on his platform, to say he had asked Anderson Mazoka, after he begged him actually for 4 hours, to say, no, let him consult other believers. So after Anderson Mazoka left the meeting with Dr. Mumba, Dr. Nevas Mumba decided to consult other bishops within the country at the time, whether he should go into an alliance with the UPND and Anderson Mazoka at the time. And then he was advised clearly to say he should not be unequally yoked with non-believers. That's the statement that he used. And then he was just regretting to say that's one of the major regrets that he has in life for not stepping into that partnership. Because as you are aware, I should have been just after that period, Anderson Mazoka later on died. So he says he would have taken over as vice president had he not listened to the advice that was coming from the clergy and his fellow pastors, who advised him to say, never be unequally yoked with non-believers. So you're simply preaching to say, step out of your comfort zone, don't always look into your circle, because it's going to take you 100 years before the church realizes what God has put in you, and by then you might have missed your opportunity. So that was one of his regrets. He was saying, had he done that, by now he would have served his 10 years as president and probably enjoying his time in retirement in the Bahamas or some place where there's a beach of some sort. And obviously the crowd laughs at that. And he later on even shared to say he has ambitions. If it was possible, he would have even contested the presidency of in Ghana, but because the constitution and other technicalities did not allow, just as a light moment in that. So that's the story that Nevas Mumba was sharing in Ghana. So that's the sermon that he has posted on this platform. So this was on the 1st of September 2024. I was honored to preach at the International Central Gospel Church in Ghana, celebrating Dr. Mensa Otabio's 65th birthday. So that's what the ceremony was about. So he was like the keynote speaker during this sermon. And you can see Reverend Wata Mwambazi comment to say, glory to God. I follow so many of their sermons and know that the backdrop is so well. Great to see you in front of it. So you're simply appreciating the fact that Dr. Nevas Mumba was honored to be part of that particular ceremony. But then again, when you look at the technicality of this issue of him becoming vice president with the offer that Anderson Mazoka had given him at the time during that negotiation, later on, Nevas Mumba actually became vice president even with the opponent, because the person that beat Anderson Mazoka during this period should have been Mwanawasa. And then later on, Nevas Mumba ended up becoming vice president. Because at the time, our constitution had not changed, where once you have a running mate, we didn't have the running mate issue. The vice president was totally appointed by the president and could be fired by the president. And once you're fired, you're fired. It's different from now, where the president cannot fire the vice president because they are tied to the constitution until they serve their term. So I don't see how that situation would have played out any different, because he ended up becoming vice president and was fired, and the situation played out. So anyway, that he shared that's his biggest regret from that thing, in that encounter there. So that goes to show, to say his relationship with the UPND is not new. Probably that's one way to send a message to people that have been critiquing him, because he's very much in support of President Hakainde Hichilema. And he's been receiving some jabs from especially the Oka Alliance to say, why is he not aligning with opposition? And then which he clarified to say he would rather work with the president of the day. Anyway, Mao Sampa shared a video of President Hakainde Hichilema, as you are aware, the president is in China. And then during that interaction, on the side notes, he met up with President of Kenya, William Ruto. And they were sharing moments of how Zambia shared a very rich relationship with Kenya and Zambia and stuff like that. So part of the entourage that William Ruto went with to China is Raila Odinga. As you are aware, during the previous elections in Kenya, Raila was the forefront opponent to William Ruto. And even in the previous protests that were happening in Kenya, Raila is the one that helped quench those protests, to say what difference would it make if we remove Ruto now and then the government is taken over by his vice president or by the military. It still boils down to the same thing. Let's just work together as Kenyans. And since then, it seems like there have been some sort of alliance or a marriage of convenience between William Ruto and Raila Odinga. William Ruto is one of the people that is actually pushing for Raila to become the chair of the AU. And then he has also co-opted, should be Uganda and most of the East African countries around there when they pitched his name or proposed his name. But ever since then, wherever the president travels to, Raila seems to be part of the advisors on that entourage. So Mao Sampa posted that video of that interaction where Raila Odinga was being introduced to Hakainde Hichilema by William Ruto. That's the video that you see on screen there. We say Ruto with Raila Odinga in China and then meeting President Hakainde Hichilema. And then Mao Sampa captions it to say, Otunesu, for the good of Kenya. President Ruto adds on his entourage to China his nemesis, who we beat in 2022 elections, Raila Odinga. So to which Chilufya Tayari made an appeal to say, you can imagine that look. I mean, the feud that was there in the last elections between the two. This is great, and should learn something from here. Next time you should include me in your entourage to Ethiopia. So Chilufya Tayari is making an appeal to President Hakainde Hichilema. If you know, Chilufya Tayari regards himself as the biggest opposition in the country. Even the time that he was getting married at some point in Ethiopia, he was dubbed as now the biggest opposition in the country. Even Emmanuel Mumba even attended that wedding. So you're simply saying, since Raila Odinga is the biggest opposition in Kenya and Chilufya Tayari regards himself as the biggest opposition in the country, living in diaspora or in self-imposed exile, he says next time President Hakainde Hichilema makes a trip to Ethiopia, he should add him to the entourage there. And yeah, so that's what's happening. I'm pretty sure the president should be coming back in the country today, probably later on in the day from China. And then Kelvin, KBF had featured on Emmanuel Mwamba's podcast, and he had a lot to say. If you remember, he was part of the UPND alliance in the build-up to the elections in 2021. And then it should have been just like a couple of months after President Hakainde Hichilema took office, he decided to step out of that and then formed his party, the one that he calls Zambia Must Prosper, Chintu Chabwino Maninge. And then, so part of the extracts from the things that he was saying is that the President Hakainde Hichilema has failed, And then he also said President Hichilema is more inclined to business, and most of the relationships that he has are very transactional. He does not have everything that he does looks to each what is it going to benefit him, and then you trade in those lines. But in politics, you should have the social aspect to it, to say where you just help out people without looking at what it's to end up benefiting you. He even makes a number of allegations in that he knows that he alleges that President Hakainde Hichilema has a number of proxies that he's working with from State House that are doing his business on his behalf. And he says he knows them personally. I think he named about 8 people that he knows that are around the president allegedly. So he said a number of things. And then obviously people had colorful comments on that issue to say, I think one of the issues that was brought up to say, it's alleged to say Kelvin Chilufya has some son in the US that is in the US prisons or something of that nature. That's what people kept on bringing up in those comments to say, why hasn't he gone to help out or visit his son allegedly in the US who's been arrested? We're yet to get truth to that. And then everything, and criticism is seditious to Hakainde Hichilema. So part of the extra to say most of the people that have been charged with sedition. So that's part of those extracts. Those are the comments coming from Kelvin Chilufya, who says President Hakainde Hichilema has not performed well in the last 3 years as we build up to the Zambia's 60th independence coming up in next month, October. And then Rupiah Banda has been released from police custody. That's his lawyer. That's the interaction that they had. These are some of the images posted by Smart Eagles. They say police finally give Patriotic Front Secretary General Rupiah Banda police bond after his lawyer filed habeas corpus at the Lusaka High Court this morning. Nakachinda was on Monday morning arrested and charged for alleged offense of seditious practice. So those are the images. He has finally been given police bond, and that's him embracing his lawyer just after being released. Then obviously some party cadres from the PF, they are waving their symbols outside the police cell. And then conflicts coming from the football world. They say Kamanga sues sports minister and ex-PST Adrian Kashala. So the once flourishing friendship between Football Association of Zambia President Andrew Kamanga and former General Secretary Adrian Kashala has ended on a note of personal difference and betrayal, with Kamanga untying their knots of friendship in the Lusaka High Court. So, and then also Rupiah Banda has been nominated for the Ballon d'Or. That's Zambia's biggest export, with should be Kundananji, but the only one that has been nominated is Rupiah Banda. So people are hoping she actually wins it, not just a nomination. She's a world-class player. And then in that lawsuit, Kamanga sued the Minister of Youth and Sports and Arts, Events, Elvis Nkandu, and his a stranger friend, Kashala, for vilifying him and undermining his authority and pretty much discrediting his leadership as far as by promoting his predecessor, football icon Kalusha Bwalia, as a supervisory role over the national teams. So that's the lawsuit that has been given to the sports minister coming from Kamanga there. And then Rupiah Banda reacts to the Ballon d'Or nomination. Copper Queen's captain Rupiah Banda has reacted to the news of her getting first nomination for Ballon d'Or award upon receiving the wonderful news, which was delivered to her by a club, Orlando Pirates. Pride, Orlando Pride. Yeah, Orlando Pirates, that's the one that's in South Africa. This is Orlando Pride. Yesterday, she thanked her team, saying it wouldn't have been possible without their support. And then Daily Nation say, arrest me, cries JJ's mother. So if you remember, this is news from the week. And then what else is in the newspapers? In the mass newspaper, UPND selfish. If they if the trend of selfishness continues, the party won't win in 2026, warns Mwale. So that's coming from the mass newspaper. And then presidency is not too important for me. That's Winter Kabimba. As you may be aware, he joined the UPND alliance earlier on during the week. So the daily revelation says he's not focused on the presidency at the moment. And then Dora spills her beans. Obviously, you should have seen this news where she mentioned a number of people that were told her to say, Finlay told me a year ahead that Lungu would lose in 2021. So this news was already broadcast earlier on. News diggers also says UNCA is an illegal, UNCA is illegal, insists government. We cannot register it with its leaders facing criminal charges. So UNCA's think stand is not registered, the United Kwacha Alliance. Daily Nation said, respect the UN report, HH advised. So I'm sure by now you're aware of that report that talked about human rights and stuff in Zambia. That's the one that's been referred to there. And then part of the interaction in China of President Hakainde Hichilema and Xi Jinping say we got into comfort zone. We were actually exporting power in the region. Then drought came, Hakainde Hichilema. This is in the mass newspaper. So, and then Zambia has also signed a deal with a Chinese company to build more power, alternative power stations in the country. Should have been like 3 of them. I'm pretty sure the president is going to give details, or government is going to give further details when they come back in the country, probably later on today. That's the news, ladies and gentlemen.